very much. Okay, thank you very much. First, I want to say thank you all for having me here. I had some technical difficulties. I don't know why my computer just died. So I had to resort back to the cell phone. I tried to use, I'm still in the way in the Sergeant at Arms office so I can run back over because we have marijuana is going to come up in a little bit. But anyway, just hopefully it'll pass, but I understand there's a lot of amendments on it. But just to tell you a little bit about, and I appreciate you reading the short bio that I submitted. But I just kind of start from there a little bit and tell about my plight and how I got here. When I went back home after I received my master's in public administration, I was hired as the business manager in the school district in Fairfield County, where I actually was educated.
Is not available.
And after working there for about 6
years, this is Shasta Salmon with First.
After working there for about 6 years, I kind of didn't like some of the things that was going on with the district and how the money was channeling down to the teachers and some of the things that was going on with the children. So I decided that I would apply for the finance director for the county's job. So I applied for that and received it. And then a lot of people started approaching me because they knew how passionate I was when it came to the school district and the children and the teachers. And so they asked me to run for the board. I was like, run for the board? How do an accountant become a politician? But I kind of prayed about it, talked to my family about it, my mom, and decided that it was something that I would definitely try to do. So I ran and I won, and I served those 18 years uninterrupted. My job career changed. So, and I'm gonna pause there for a minute and just let those who are listening know that sometimes your job can be impacted by you serving in elected office. When you do what's right, they will come at you from all different kinds of angles. But I'm a faith person, and I put a lot of my, well, actually 100% of my faith and confidence in God. So through him, I was able to withstand all the challenges that came after me. And I never gave up. I continued to serve on the school board. I had opposition every time I ran, but it didn't matter. The majority of the people who voted for me knew my passion, and they knew what I was doing for the children. So they continued to elect me. So that's another plug I want to put in, that as you run, do not give up. Do not let this male-dominated profession stop you from doing what you know that you can do. And I'm not saying men are bad, but I'm just saying it is a male-dominated profession. So after serving 18 years on the school board and seeing things there that I thought need to be changed from that perspective, because I thought I could make a lot of change on the board, but I couldn't. So I said, okay, well, let me try to run for a higher office. And so I decided to run for the House of Representatives. And as she stated, I did run multiple times and actually won on the 5th time. So I was had a lot of tenacity and determination and persistence. And so I chose not to give up. But what was so different about the last time that I ran, as I look back, I could see how my path was already charted, and all I had to do was walk in it. Because it started out that I was at a church and with my sorority sisters, and we were passing out some bags for the children because they was going to be home, and we wanted to make sure that they had food to eat. So we it's like a little angel tapped me on the shoulder, and I called Trav and I said, Trav, when is the deadline to run for the House seat? He said, well, you have 23 minutes. So I jumped in the car, run over to the voter registration office, told a young lady who was helping me, just stay here, I'll be right back. So I got over there, filled out the paperwork, wrote my little check, turned it in, and she said, girl, you only have 2 minutes to spare. I said, well, I don't know what this is all about, but I'm gonna run for it. So as I started to run and I started calling some of the elected officials and people asking them for their support, they was real matter of fact about supporting me this time, whereby before, it was one of those, we don't want to get involved in other people's races. If we may pick up your friends, but we'll also pick up your enemies. So I was like, okay, cool. They are supporting me this time because the person that was representing before, she had done some things that kind of made them upset. But anyway, so this in between there, being a female running, some of the things I experienced was when you're going to put signs out, Um, you want to try to have someone with you while you're putting signs out, because you never know when people will yell things out at the window or throw things at you. Because people can get real territorial and real passion, if you will, for lack of a better word, about the candidate that they support, and they will target the opposition. So, most of the time, men, they don't mind going by themselves, and they're less likely to experience some of the things that females will experience. But the times that I would go out by myself, because I like to put my signs out at night, I make sure that I wear blue jeans and make sure I kind of dress kind of robust. So if something happened, I'm ready to defend myself. So after, so after, so some of the other things that I experienced just in running is that even my constituents were a little reluctant in supporting me as a female. I heard some people say, well, we want to keep a male, or we want someone who's an attorney, or they just came up with all these different excuses. But my major purpose and goal in running was I wanted the people of the district to understand what a representative does, what this position means to District 41, which serves all of Fairfield County, part of Chester County, and part of Richland County. So after I won, and they saw how I was keeping them informed, I was showing up at the events, I would call them up, I would give resolutions, and I try to give them for people who are over 80 years old. So all those kind of things they didn't know about. And then I started posting on Facebook some of the legislation that was, contentious, or legislation that I thought would impact Fairfield. I started posting that on my Facebook page, sending a newsletter out. So then all this stuff started happening. They was like, oh my God, we just didn't know this. We didn't know this. You doing such a good job. So I think putting that female touch on it gave me an edge. But you still had some of these folks who believes that the head should be a male, which I just tell them in the district when I hear that is, you know what, the job has to get done. So if whoever is in that, male or female, is not getting done, then you need to make sure that you put someone there who is getting it done. So now fast forward to me here serving. This is where you can really see where there's a difference in being a male and a female. Most of the leadership is male, and sometimes we have to stand and shout to make sure that they acknowledge us when we have a comment. Sometimes they'll try to dismiss us when we have a comment, but anytime they dismiss me, I just raise my hand again and come right back to the point, raise again, come back to the point. And then what I would do sometimes is go to the males outside of being in the chambers, or either go to them in the chambers and talk to them one-on-one, and just kind of start a conversation with them. I ask them something about their families or whatever, because I want to make sure they understand that even though I'm a female, I'm here to do a job just like you are. And I am going to do the job that I have been elected to do. Sometimes they'll walk past you, won't speak. So what I started doing there is, if I see them approaching and I know it's someone who don't normally speak, I just kind of step over a little bit. So either you're going to speak or you're just going to walk through me. So those are the kind of things that you have to kind of get used to, and you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to make sure they understand that I am here, whether I'm a male or female. I have a job to do, and I'm going to do my job. So you got to be kind of matter of fact about it. Don't be intimidated. If you feel like you need to cry when you get home. Don't let them see you cry, because we don't want this to be a pity party thing, and we don't want it to be where you need to treat me different because I'm a female. You treat me the same way because I'm gonna treat you the same way. And you say what you need to say, I'm going to say what I need to say. But one of the things that saddens me so much this session is a lot of the legislation that we seem to be taking up is legislation that deals with morality and deal with things in people's lives that we really should not be trying to legislate. Abortion pill, and making doctors tell people or the patients that there is a reversal pill, even though gynecologists and pediatricians and other physicians have testified and said that this is a test pill. They've stated that it caused a lot of women to bleed excessively, and they even quit with the testing. But they still want to tell these doctors, these physicians, that they have to tell the patients about these pills. we took up critical race theory, which state superintendent and other educators testified and said it does not exist in the schools. And being a former school board member, I shared with them that school districts have policies in place and they need to deal with that at their level. They need to, if it actually is occurring. So they brought us some instances where they could prove it, but then they also brought us instances where they was called out. Like I mentioned to the young lady who was running for state superintendent, which she had to pull out because apparently she's so concerned about critical race theory, she didn't read the qualifications to run for state superintendent, and she didn't have a master's degree. So I had someone had sent me a video where she was negatively talking about someone who wrote a book dealing with critical race theory. And so when I brought it to her attention, she was like, well, that wouldn't be in the video. So I got her cell phone number and sent her the video, and come to find out that it was. But she's following another male-dominated person in the state house who just adamant that all this kind of legislation need to pass. And he even got up in one of these sessions and stated he don't depend on the government for everything, and he's retired military. I said, oh, you retired military. So the money that you paid in is, I'm sure, all gone. But if you were continuously receiving a pension, I can guarantee you receiving money from the government. So it's those kinds of things that makes it frustrating when we should be dealing with getting beyond the COVID, small businesses being able to strive in this new evolution of being a small business, trying to rebuild our rural communities where when we put interstates in place, they lost a lot of that traffic. And so they are suffering. We should be talking about the roads and how we need to make sure that our roads are safe, make sure that all this federal money coming in will get to the places that it needs to go, and it will help in rebuilding our state in areas where it hadn't been. So, and I could probably list so many other things, but I just be who I am. I just be matter of fact, and regardless of us being outnumbered here, I make sure that they know that I am a force to be reckoned with, and I think they've realized that. So I'll pause and I can take some questions if you want me to.
Thank you. One of the questions, if you have a question, if you could put it in the chat and I can read it back, that way we can move forward. One of the questions I have is how you deal with women who basically are your own worst enemies. That's one of the things that we've talked about before, is that women can be their own worst enemies. We go against policies, legislation, or a lot of things that are against us. And how do you work with women, particularly in the opposite party, who are doing their best to hurt women?
Yeah, now that part is pretty difficult. I haven't approached any of the females on the other side who's voting for this legislation, and I love your terminology, and I use the same terminology. You're voting against your own interests. But it appears to be that we are so polarized down party lines till it is just totally unbelievable. And if things go the way the redistricting has been structured to do, there will be a super majority on the other side of the aisle. And that, I tell you, is really, 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 and I can say really forever, scary. We see what's going on with the United States Supreme Court. And I truly believe that if it is in fact overturned, we're going to see more legislation coming from this state to totally outlaw abortions 100%, regardless of the reason why a female got pregnant and regardless of the reason why she feels that she wants to abort that unborn child.
I have a question from Emily. Do you feel women work across party lines better as a coalition?
I think the desire is there, but I think that there is so much happening coming down from the national, particularly on the other side of the aisle. And I can say that because on my side, and I am a Democrat, and I don't mind saying that, we don't get a lot of instructions from our national committee about what we need to do as a group. And maybe we need to start working towards that to some degree. But a lot of it comes down on the other side of the aisle. And I can say that because I know it for a fact, because I've gone to some of the ALEC meetings and I've gotten fussed out about going, but I believe that sometimes you need to be there so you can know yourself what's going on and you can voice certain things. So even though you may vote the way you choose to vote and push this unnecessary legislation, you would not be able to say that someone did not bring to your attention certain things that you need to know. Good prime example with the gender bill where female sports is what they called it. I keep hearing those on the other side, and I want to specifically mention, I went to Lexington to one of this superintendent conferences. Don't ask me what I was doing there, but I ended up there, and they kept saying, like with single gender, if I'm the state superintendent, I'm going to make sure that every child uses the bathroom based on whether they're male or female. Well, they're not looking at the fact that if you're a state superintendent, you must serve every child in the school system, regardless of whether they're gay, lesbian, transgender, whatever. And some children are born with two parts, and the parent may select them to be a female, but then as they get older, then some other attributes of the male may come out. So why are we trying to legislate this? I'm still trying to figure it out. But for some reason, this is what's going on. And all of the questions that they were asking the superintendent was dealing with, again, moral things and things that we should not be trying to legislate. But the sad part is that those candidates was playing to them. And I'm sitting there going, okay, y'all, they're recording this. And you all are sitting here telling these folks that you're going to do everything that they're saying when they're only referencing a small number of children. And you, if you become state superintendent, you've got to address the needs of the entire school system. But they're following that male-dominated legislation and agenda that's being pushed down to the local states. To the states.
I have a question from Mia. She says, you shared with us about some of the resistance you've experienced over the course of your career. How do you continue to build your confidence and resiliency?
When I know in my heart of hearts that I've done all that I can do, as I stated earlier, I'm a faith person, so I constantly defer to God in some of my decision making, and I ask Him to order my steps. And I'll pray for the persons who are doing these wrong things. And sometimes I'll even say, "Well, God, when is there going to be a change?" I talk to Him a lot, just like I talk to any other friend of mine, and that kind of ignites me. When we had the critical race theory conversation, the ACLU was extremely helpful in providing us with talking points, in assisting us with coming up with the amendments. So having support outside of the chambers goes an extremely long way of keeping you resilient. Even though we have a lot of differences here, oftentimes in the evenings when we go to receptions or someone may have a birthday party or something, we go together, we leave all those things that we disagree with on the outside and we just go inside and have a good time. But I will tell you, some difference must be being made in what we're doing, because someone on the other side who was a strong proponent of the female sports bill, she came to me and she said, she asked me if I thought that maybe we should start a group with maybe 4 or 5 persons from each side of the aisle, so we could share with each other some of the things, the consequences of legislation that's introduced. I said, I'd be more than happy to. I said, but be careful what you ask for, because I'm going to straight up tell you, because the district that I represent, a lot of this crap that you all are passing negatively impacts my district. So it's different things like that that kind of reassures me that I'm being effective, and that keeps me resilient.
I have a question from Michelle. She says, do you spend a lot of time educating yourself on the relevant topics on the agenda? Are there other groups you can go to for this? And you mentioned the ACLU.
Mm-hmm. And yes, there are other groups like these. Sometimes the South Carolina Education Association and I do serve on the education committee and the subcommittees under that committee. I serve on this higher ed, and I serve on transportation. But people who monitor the different pieces of legislation, they will often time text us or email us or call us, our offices, and give us talking points to share with us. Sometimes they'll come to the office and they'll meet with us. And I'm real people oriented. When people call me and want to meet with me, I try to make time for them. I think, as a matter of fact, I'm so passionate about this. I retired early so that I could give this 100%. Now, eventually, financially, I may have to end up going back, doing some consultant work or whatever. But I'm really serious about what I do here, and I want to be able to make a difference, even though it's difficult maybe to get legislation passed. Per se, that the other side of the aisle may think is Democratic legislation. I still pride myself in the fact that I can be that voice to bring attention to some of the things that's being done, and hopefully the media will pick up on it and then maybe put them on Front Street. Because with the numbers being where they are, and they probably will have that 2/3 vote, 2/3 majority in the House and the Senate after the election, then we have to depend on the positions and what they're doing being on Main Street, and have to depend on, to a certain degree, shaming them in this crazy legislation that they're passing instead of dealing with real issues that's impacting the state.
Barbara asked, working across party lines, is it not difficult for people on opposite sides of the aisle to work together because of threats by leadership to remove powerful committee appointments if they differ from the party line? Swings to either party. In other words, I think saying if you go against the party line, I think it causes fear of losing a powerful position.
And she is, and thank you, Barbara, for that, because you are 100% correct. And I've even experienced that here in this male-dominated leadership in the House, because I was Speaker, the Speaker Pro Tem, everybody's a male. Everybody's a male. And I experienced it firsthand on my side of the aisle when we had the election for our leader. And there was a male running and there was a female running. And it appeared to us that leadership got involved and people were moved from committees because the person that they wanted to be the leader, and it's not even their party, but the person they wanted to be the leader over in our party, they was able to influence it by threatening to pull people off of subcommittee chairs or chairs and then put other people on. And some people did pay a price because they supported the female that was running. And that I've even been approached when I've been a little vocal, and someone have called me to the side and said, well, you might not want to do that. So it does, and it does make you think and question, because you're trying to make sure that you take things home for your constituents. And the biggest thing that they have over us is earmarks. So if you make the powers to be upset, then you're subject not to be able to get any earmarks to take home to your constituents. So then you have to figure out how to juggle it and still get your points across. But then once that subject is over, then you go to them and then you strike up conversation so that it's that you maintain a relationship even though you disagree on particular matters. And that's how I try to handle the threats of being removed if you go against the grain, if you will.
Do you feel that sometimes that women tend to well, I think people in general, but tend not to run because of finances and because they have this lack of confidence that they can actually do the job?
Another great point. Women that I experienced, for the most part, we don't like to raise money. Depending on your district, it is extremely important that you run money, that you raise money. My district is not as much so, but you still want to be able to purchase your signs. You want to be able to do TV ads if you need to. You want to be able to do those things so that you'll get your word out there, so it doesn't appear that your opposition will take you for granted. I strongly encourage anyone who's considering to run to please make sure that you go to any classes that help you with fundraising, and also encourage your friends to give to the candidates or the elected officials that you want to stay in office or you would like to see stay in office. I get a lot of calls from people for these resolutions and they want me to frame them. Well, I have to, and I hadn't quite yet figured it out. I have to let them know that, look, y'all, it costs $85 for the framing of these. And I don't do a lot of fundraising. So I end up paying for it sometime out of my own pocket. So fundraising and finances are extremely important. As it relates to the knowledge base, I tell people that the folk here in this General Assembly are no smarter than what those who elected us are. You just gave us the authority to be the leader, and you gave us power by virtue of giving us that authority. It makes us no smarter. We can make some of the dumbest daggone decisions down here. And what I notice a lot of times we talk so fast and we very quick to tell the untruth, which just infuriates me because I try to be a honest person. And sometimes when they come to me and say, well, I don't know why you're doing all that. You need to just tell them you can't do it or whatever. I said, no, I pray to God to come here to serve, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So anyone who's thinking about running, do not let knowledge base deter you. Now, we have a lot of attorneys here, and it seems as though every time a seat comes open, the trial lawyers get in and they seek a candidate, and we get more and more attorneys. But that's something we need to think about when we're voting, because in this state, fortunately or unfortunately, we have a lot of lawyers in the General Assembly. We appoint the state judges in every category. We then go and we appear before those judges with our cases. And it's very difficult to believe that there may not be any influence there. So I just think that situation is going to continue to grow. And I don't know what we need to do about it, but I'm an advocate that something needs to happen, because that's, to me, it's a conflict if we appoint the judges and then we go appear before them when we have a case.
Rhonda wants to know, she's interested in serving on a higher ed board for the state, and she would like for you to consider giving her a letter of recommendation for his college. So Rhonda, I think that's something you could go next and do a private chat with her. Emily has a question. How do we get more women in office? Now, I know for a fact, and we'll go, and what Emily is asking for, there's several avenues. Again, going back to the money, I understand that just for the House of Representatives, it can cost $100,000 to run for an office in the state. So how do we get women to run for office with some of the barriers that are there?
Mm-hmm. Well, to keep me from having to have so much money, I did a grassroots. I always do grassroots. I attend events even before I started running. When I go to the grocery store, or I make sure I stop talk to them. But what we have to do is just encourage them. And then when they decide to run, we have to support them. And when I say support them, I mean financially, volunteer to make phone calls, knocking on doors. But that candidate has to be extremely engaged. When we go knock on doors, we normally take a car of 5 or more, and I'm always somewhere in the middle. So if they knock on the door and someone is home and they say, well, I don't know her, then they will call me on the cell phone, or they'll yell for me to come to that house so I can introduce myself to them so that they can know exactly who I am. And I tell you, that beats money any day. We have to assist with fundraisers, and their corporations and stuff, they will give, but we just need to, we need to ask them and let them know. But we need to try real hard not to get caught up in the situation where if you donate to my campaign, that I'm obligated to vote for whatever legislation. And I make sure they know that, because I'm here for my constituents, and my votes are based on what my constituents would like for me to do. And if they don't know what they don't know, then I'm going to vote for what I think is best for the best interest of my district.
Do you think that mentoring is incredibly important for women to do for each other?
I think it's very important. And I would encourage any women who are thinking about running to connect with organizations like WIL. What's the one? Emerge, SC. I can't remember all of them, but there's several organizations that nationally and statewide and locally, if you're running for even a local office, and they will help you. They have all kinds of trainings, and don't even wait till you decide you're going to run. You can just go to trainings just to go so you can learn. so you can learn how to even deal with the people that are currently representing you and how to communicate with them and communicate with them effectively so that they don't just look at your phone call or look at your letter and just push it to the side. They need to understand that if you are their constituents, you can be a force to be reckoned with them if they just push you to the side. And we need to always be in our elected officials' ear. Because one thing I can tell you, an elected official do not like is opposition. So when they're not listening to us, we need to run, even if we do nothing but put our name on the ballot, because we're making them spend money and they don't want to spend money.
Any other questions? Any other insights? I always have a ton of questions.
Can I ask a question, Trish?
Sure, absolutely, Barbara.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Takes me a long time to get back and forth into the chat, and it's not because I'm slow, it's because I'm trying to pay attention to you, Representative McDaniel. So I actually have two questions. One is that you are first in a lot of things. And one of the things that Kamala Harris always says is that she wants to be the last first, and I'm paraphrasing what she says. So I'd like your feedback on that. And the other one is about not winning every race, but coming back. I think a lot of times, particularly women, put their tail between their legs, not literally, but have a sense that they've been whooped and that they tried once and can't do it again. How would you maybe encourage? I'm sorry, that's a long series of two questions, but that way I don't have to type it all in the chat.
Okay, I was giving me a little note so I could write down too. But as it relates to being first, you're absolutely right. I'm the first in my family to go to college. I'm the first to have a master's degree, as well as the bachelor's. I'm the first to run for any political office, first female to hold the position, African-American female, and a few other firsts. But it will be a great day when we can say that we don't have to worry about anyone being the first, but just getting it done and just keep going. But I think it's important to note those firsts because it encourages those coming behind to say, well, you know what? If she could do it, then I can do it too, particularly in the female arena, and then also breaking those glass ceilings. So if anyone is thinking about running, I don't mind giving my cell phone number if you want to call me so I can help encourage you. But I tell you, that smile goes a long way. And people ask me why I smile all the time, but there are times that I don't. But usually even when you tell someone off, and I don't want to say tell them off, but if you say something they don't like, if you end it with a smile, then you kind of throw them off balance. They don't really know how to come back. But if you get angry, then I always think about what my mom says, if two people arguing, then you don't know who the fool is. So I don't want to be in that category because I want people to take me serious and know that I'm sincere and I'm passionate about what I do and what I believe in. What was that second question, Barbara? You
honey.
Had to get back there. It was about having the confidence to try again. And I mean that in part that, women have been taught to be sort of, I don't want to say second-class citizens, but we are we're sort of minimized in our upbringing. We're going to be this Adam's rib, the second in the family, following what our husband says. So when we try to run for office and lose, having built the confidence in order to get that far, how do you get it back or keep it up once you've been defeated in a race?
And I like that, Barbara. And sometimes it's difficult because no one likes their feelings to be hurt, and no one likes to feel like they failed. But I've started adding in, when I do speeches, to people that you never fail. You may have missed your attempt at whatever it is you're trying to do, but do not take it as you haven't failed. And every time you miss that attempt, you think about maybe what you could do differently. But what you do not do is blame and blame and blame and get angry with people and feel that they didn't do enough to support you. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who's running and you're the one who's going to be in office. And you kind of have to have that mindset that if I don't have people with me and I don't have people working, I'm going to have to get out here and do it if I have to do it by myself. And when you lose the confidence, you got to be around positive people. When people come to you and bring negativity, the first thing I say to them is, God, you know what? You should have given them my phone number and had them call me. And that way I will address whatever they're being negative about. Or I will say to them, you know, when I get that mess in my spirit, I can't get it out. So either you send them to me or you do not share that negativity with me, because it will scorn you. And if you in a race and that race is heated and you doing everything you can to win and you moving forward and things are coming in your way, of course the devil gonna send someone. And so when you get distracted because someone says that someone was talking negative about your campaign or say that you stole somebody or something, you know you didn't steal, ignore it. Do not give it life. Do not. And if you're running for the first time, try to challenge your opposition to forums. If people are already elected, they don't like to do forums. They don't want to have to be on in the same space with you, because they don't. If you are smarter than them and you're sharper than them with answering the questions, they don't want that discovered, because they feel like they're already in the position, so they already have an edge. So you just keep trying to get people to call for candidates debates and get them to debate with you or have that forum. And just you know, stay prayerful. You know, you got to stay prayerful and try to stay positive, because I'm a strong believer in that old saying that the way you go through something is the way you come out of it. So if you go through positive, you come out positive. And just ask God, take this off of me. I feel bad because I lost, and I want to be fired up again and energized again, like the little Energizer bunny, because I need to know what I'm going to do next, and I need to do it. I felt bad when I lost all 4 times, but I just kind of laughed it off and said, you know what? I'm just going to try again. Now, the last time I did say I'm done, but then somehow, like I said, it was like a little angel on my shoulder. Here I go again, but I don't regret it. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy talking to little people. I mean, young people. I think my first year here, they told me that I had more people at the General Assembly than anyone. And that's because there's so many young people in my community who have not a clue about politics and how politicians make decisions that impact their lives. So I would bring them like every other day, and they give them a little guest pen like I was when they come in. And they was like, we keep running out of pens. I'm like, and that's a good thing. So just try not to give up. And if you need to call me so I can help re-energize you, I promise you I would do it.
Who is your hero, your female hero that has impacted you the most?
My hero is my mom. My mother passed away when she was 38, and she had 9 children, ranging from 9 months to my mother being next to the oldest. And for whatever reason, my mother took it upon herself to make sure all of her siblings received a high school education. And mom was in the 10th grade when her mother passed, and she never went back and finished getting her education. So everything I do in life is to, number one, make her proud, and number 2, to fill that gap of things that she wanted to do. Now, of course, she wanted to be a nurse, but I couldn't do that. I don't like blood. So I went to accounting. So she wanted to be a nurse. But it's just important to me to make her feel happy about being a homemaker and taking the position and raising her siblings. And I always acknowledge her, always. She can't travel with me as much anymore because she'll be turning 88 next year. But she tries to follow me in the paper, and she reads everything in the news. And so she keeps up with what I'm doing. Outside of her being my hero, I just look at a lot of people in general. I love Harriet Tubman, love how she made sure that people did what they didn't know that they can do. Most people that I have the most, what I want to say, that I champion the most are people who I consider overcomers, people who despite certain challenges, they were still able to make positive things happen. I love people who give back and people who help others. I get a lot of conversations down here because I am passionate about helping people. And I know that we do a lot of stuff down here that impacts ourselves. And it's our own self-serving legislation that we're passing or that we're introducing. And I just like giving back. So
Thank you. Gosh, that was so much. And I think everybody got something out of what you had to say, and continue to do the great job that you're doing. And would you please tell Gilda Cobb Hunter that Trish Johnson said hello?
I will.
For years through the American Association of University Women. She was always a speaker at our legislative days when I was handling that. She's an amazing woman. And she I think she's the longest running female member of the House.
She is the longest member, period. And there we go again with that male dominance, because we know she should have moved up based on seniority, but now it doesn't matter. But it mattered before when we had all the men.
Yeah, it sure did. Don't get me started. Anyway, but thank you so much. Does anybody else have a question before we call a close to the end? Again, thank you so much. I know you're very, very busy, and we appreciate your time, and keep doing what you're doing. And we will, great that we should all be out there helping, being able to put boots to the ground. I know it is important to support our women, and we thank you.
Absolutely. Thank y'all. And thank you for having me, particularly to you, Trish, and to Barbara. She's a dear friend of mine. And anytime y'all need me, y'all just let me know. I want to do everything I can to get women elected and encourage them to be elected and help them out, even if they need to try again. So thank you all.
Thank you. And ladies, if there's somebody you'd like to hear from, a woman in your community or someone in the state, and we're trying to keep the women in the state of South Carolina, but it doesn't have to be, anyone who is in a leadership position who can teach us how to continue to better and improve ourselves and lead like women, send it to Emily, and she and I can discuss it, and we can see what we can do to get, and we may have to reach back out to you to help us book this person on our monthly talk. And if there's anything specific you'd like to talk about, also get that over to Emily so we can include that. And Emily and I will be getting together for next month's meeting to see what we will be doing or who we will have to speak. And I love the fact that I like to start on time and end on time, but we've done this the last 2 months, leave early so everybody can get back to doing what they need to do in their busy lives. And thank you all for being here, and have a great rest of your month. Bye, ladies.